Of all the counties of Britain, perhaps the most celebrated for its wildlife is Norfolk. From the Wash in the northwest to the Broads, from the North Norfolk coast to the Brecks, everywhere there is rare and special wildlife. And protecting it since 1926 is Norfolk Wildlife Trust, which today is engaged in a national programme called Living Landscapes. Living Landscapes are about restoring habitat where it exists, recreating habitat where it has been lost, and reconnecting areas of isolated habitat. Crucially, it's also about reconnecting people with the landscapes they inhabit. Across this series, we'll be exploring the living landscapes of our county, meeting the people who are helping to restore them, and learning about the rare wildlife which inhabits them. This is Wild Norfolk. Our journey through the wild habitats of Norfolk begins here in the North Norfolk Woods living landscape. We've come to the woods because if everyone in the UK left, within 100 years, pretty much the whole landscape would be covered in woodland. Put simply, woods are the natural habitat of the British Isles. With the retreat of the Devonian glaciation some 12,000 years ago, the whole landscape of Britain was left open, an Arctic tundra. Over the centuries, this was colonised by trees. First, pioneer species like birch with light seeds, and then all of the species we count as native to Britain today. This was the wildwood, the great wood that covered the whole of Britain for thousands of years, inhabited by bears, by wolves, by wild cattle and by wild boar. Since the Bronze Age, the whole landscape of Norfolk, of the British Isles, has been kept open by grazing and by agriculture, and woods that once were everywhere have been reduced to a tiny area. Being the natural habitat of terrestrial Norfolk, and also the most structurally diverse, woods support the highest biodiversity. Though trees like this ancient oak at Thursford Wood are the most obvious species, the story of a wood's biodiversity begins in the topsoil and the leaf litter, with thousands of species of fungus, of microorganism and of bacteria. In each layer of the wood there are specialist species. In spring, a ground flora of bluebells, dog violets, red campion and yellow archangel. Above them in summer, brambles, the nesting site of woodcocks, blackcap and chiffchaffs, and honeysuckle, the food plant of the white admiral. Next, there are young saplings, and finally the canopy of the tall trees where in late summer purple hair streaks may be seen, where long-tailed tits, blue tits and great tits feed, preyed on by sparrowhawks. So Joe, what's the history of Foxley Wood?
Well, Foxley Wood dates back to the last ice age. It was about 6,000 years ago. Our earliest recorded mention of it was in the Domesday Book, and it's mentioned as a wood in Foxley capable of holding 305 sow. And this was used as an old measurement, about a sow an acre.
But you don't have any sows here now?
We don't know, we haven't got any sows here now.
And through its history, what's Foxley Wood been used to produce?
Well, during the medieval times, Foxley Wood was coppiced about 1/10 of the wood a year in a 10-year rotation. And the products they got from this were used as hazel binders and stakes for hedge laying. They powered bread ovens, cooking, thatching, and many other building products. Once you coppice an area, you've cleared it, you've opened up the ground. So we get some fantastic ground flora coming up in the first year. Species like Herba paris, a variety of orchid species that will appear up, and they would have lain dormant for 15, 20 years.
While the woods are managed by professional conservationists like Joe, there's far more to be done than this small band can manage by themselves. That's where the living landscape concept comes in. Living landscapes are about people, local communities, being involved in their natural places, in their local nature reserves. And as can be seen here at Bretts Wood, local people are supporting Norfolk Wildlife Trust by undertaking a survey of the ground flora.
I've been in teaching most of my life, and I just can't stop helping people who want to learn something or just be more aware of their environment. I just want to help them in any way they want help.
Plants, which can only live in woods, are known as ancient woodland indicators. Most of them flower in the spring, before the tree's leaves are taking all the light, but just a few flower in summer, including this lovely enchanter's nightshade.
County wildlife sites, and there are a lot of them in this area, are a sort of informal nature reserve. They're designated because there is something of wildlife interest there, but they're not necessarily accessible by the public, and they have no real designation, no protection, but it is an identification of something of interest. The Brett family wanted and donated some money for the acquisition of a wood in memory of their son. And this was available so that the Trust bought what has become known as Brett's Wood.
Living landscapes are as much about people as they are about wildlife. To get involved in your own living landscape wherever you are in Norfolk, find out more by visiting the Norfolk Wildlife Trust website.